Okay. Good evening. We are here now on Tuesday, December 9th, 2025 for our work session. And we are starting with the discussion about the Bountiful Library land swap. Gary Hill.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks.
Council, we'll have you turn in your packet to page 3. We have a couple of exhibits there. What we'd like to talk about tonight are the next steps related to the Davis County Bountiful branch of the library being renovated. Most of you know that this has been a long process with Davis County to identify what needed to be done and what they ultimately wanted to do. Several months ago, the county decided that they preferred to renovate the existing building rather than build a new one because they, in large part, felt like they would have more square footage by renovating the existing one for the dollars than they would by trying to build a new one on the new site. And so after the commission made that decision, they hired an architect and got to work identifying some site improvements. And one of the first things that they recognized, I think that all of us know that have used the library, is that vehicle circulation around the library is a little bit challenging. The current situation is, if you look at, this is kind of I'm going to actually turn you to page 4 for a minute that shows you kind of existing conditions. You have the library driveway entrance, which is one way off of Main Street. And on the left-hand side by the library, you have the book drop-off and then angled parking on the right. And it's awkward because anybody then coming out of that has to cross the main driveway entrance into the city campus, which also happens to share parking with the senior center. And then a lot of the library patrons have to park across from both of those driveways near the field. And so pedestrian access has also been kind of a concern for the library and for us for a number of years. So those were two issues that were a little bit concerning to us. And then in addition to that, we have a crosswalk currently, if you go back to page 3, that moves almost diagonally across Main Street and can be a little bit troublesome for people. So the architects came and had a conversation with our planning and engineering staff about a desire to maybe make some changes to the footprint. And Lloyd had the opportunity to suggest that if they were to take some of our property, I think that was their request, take some of our property back on page 4 in that rectangle that is to the south of the building. But that if they did that, it might provide an opportunity to close the driveway access and limit some of the challenges we have with vehicles coming on and off of Main Street and the conflict with the crosswalk there. Lloyd, could maybe I ask you to take a minute to talk about the circulation issues that you saw and how the crosswalk relates to the future bus stop?
Sure. Maybe we can go to the bus stop issue first because it's a little bit easy to talk about. As you know, UTA is proposing the BRT line here on Main Street, and we have seen plans which locate a bus stop along the library frontage to the north of the driveway. We don't know exactly whether it's going to land on the north side of the driveway that goes back into the service area of their building, or if it will be south of that, but it is planned along the library frontage. And so moving that crosswalk would probably be opportune to just make the circulation for the bus in the future better, but also by closing the entrance into the library, we're removing one more set of conflict points. If you had traffic exiting both of those driveways at the same time, one person wanting to make a left turn, one person wanting to make a right turn, you're going to introduce a bigger chance for conflict. So we're in a much better position to consolidate access at this point and have everybody enter in and out of the city campus in one drive approach. It also does a lot for the configuration of the parking in front of the library, because the library is proposing having parking that's basically north and south with an aisle separating those parking stalls. So it will provide better circulation and much safer circulation for pedestrians headed to the library.
Thanks, Lloyd. So the proposal was initially for them to come and see if we would lease property to them or sell property to them. And as we discussed the benefits to the library, we thought this might also be an opportunity through a land swap to provide some additional property to the west of the senior center. Just by way of reminder, the county owns the property where the library is, and we own the property where the senior center is, even though it's a county facility. But the parking that currently exists to the west of that set of parking stalls is actually on the county's parcel. So it was the idea of our brilliant city engineer to trade that property so that we would also have some additional parking and make our parcel slightly larger there to the west. This has gone before the county commissioners. Nobody's taken formal action yet, because that won't happen until there's an interlocal agreement. But they reviewed this concept, they were happy with it, and we would like to get the council's thoughts on it. And if you're comfortable with it, then we'll give direction to the county to go ahead and start drawing up documents.
Great. What do we think, council members? Do you have a question?
I do. I have a question. Is the black box that's attached to the east side, will that be the new book drop-off?
So this is the chart on page 3.
Page 3, yeah.
Yes, that's the current design. Now, I should say this this illustration that's in the pack is just conceptual at this point in time, so things may change, but that is their intention right now, to move the book drop-off to the east side.
Can I ask a follow-up question that's related? Do you think that's where they would also put the ballot drop-off, since traditionally the library has been the ballot drop-off for elections?
I would assume that it would be next to the book drop-off where it's been in the current library too.
Okay. It's always good to make sure that voters just feel comfortable with where that's going to be, since it's been such a historic, this is where you go to drop off your ballot. So as long as the county's thinking about how they'll include that in their circulation plans and somewhere convenient that voters can get to.
And we can mention that to them, that's a priority we notice for people coming to the campus.
I would say not just convenient, but it being on the east side of the building, it's not visible to drivers on the Main Street. So then what kind of tampering could be done? Where today it's on the south-facing side where there's a lot of traffic and always at least inside of eyes.
I believe that there has been a couple changes in state law with regard to cameras that are keeping a constant surveillance on ballot drop-off boxes because of some of those concerns. So hopefully the county architects are thinking about that component. Just those have changed over the last couple of years to just make sure that there's ballot security and cameras.
Good questions, good thoughts. Any
May I?
other? Yeah.
So aside from ownership of that parking, it seems like the county is getting additional use and property, and we're just going to still be granting them the use of the property that we will now own. Am I interpreting that correctly?
To make sure I understand, we will be trading square footage.
Right.
Yeah.
Understood, but do you think that that parking will be senior center parking that we now own, or will it just be additional library parking in use?
Oh, I see. I think their intention is to keep it as additional senior center parking.
Okay. Are we also to infer from the drawing on page 3 that they're going to improve and activate that space along the stream more than it currently is?
Yeah, that is their plan. And Francisco, I don't know if they talked to you more about their plans on the north side of the library building when they came and spoke with the,
We haven't had a follow-up discussion on that.
yeah, we had a brief conversation. They do want to take advantage of that property because it's that, or piece of the property because it's pretty beautiful.
It is.
We have pointed out to them too that follows our Trails Master Plan and that we would like to preserve trail access along that corridor too, which they seemed amenable to. So that's a consideration as we do the interlocal agreement. We want to make sure
Right.
there's trail easement.
I'd like to offer our at least verbal encouragement for them to actually do that.
Good.
So I have zero issue with the land swap. I think the circulation is safer. I don't know if it's going to push traffic past the senior center more. It might, if that becomes a more of a realized through street there. But in general, I think this is a good plan.
Okay.
Lloyd,
Mayor, could I make a couple of comments?
please.
Maybe just to help clarify, the existing parking on the west side of the senior center is currently all ADA accessible parking. So a lot of van spaces, and I think that is needed for the operation of the senior center more than for the library. It's much more convenient to the senior center. And maybe just a little more explanation on the space between the library and the creek. The architect explained that they wanted to create more of a plaza atmosphere back there. And then attached to the building would be a deck. So there'd be a space for patrons to enjoy that from an additional level above plaza level. So sounds good.
That's great.
Yeah, sounds really good. Sounds like a win-win. Any other questions?
No, I just want to add that I really like these little green strips that are kind of break up the parking. Do you believe that that design element will be retained?
We have, it's part of our ordinance, there's a certain amount of green that has to go in. So it may not end up looking exactly like that, but there will be, as I understand it, Lloyd and Francisco, as I understand it, there will be a requirement to do some of that, whether that's trees. I think we were also encouraging them, maybe add a tree or two.
Yeah, that would be nice and goes along with something we're talking about later today. It is nice to have it do a mid-parking break, though, so it's not just, it kind of breaks up that asphalt and makes it visually nicer, and probably will also even serve to slow traffic a little, from what I understand about this type of improvement in a parking area. I like it. I love this idea, this conceptualization behind the library. And as a longtime user and lover of this library, I can see how this will improve parking and circulation. I think it's a great idea.
Any other questions?
So tonight, we're just looking for a head nod, make sure, or thumbs up. Yep, seeing nods, seeing the nodding of heads and the upping of thumbs. Thank you. That's great. So we'll let the county know, and we'll keep you posted. The county folks have been great to work with. They've been, I think, very, very responsive to the ideas and issues that were raised by our staff, and I know that they'll be happy to get the feedback of also what's important besides the land swap from the council. So we'll pass along all those things.
Great, thank you. Okay, excellent. We'll now discuss a city hall room rental policy, and we'll turn it back over to you, Gary.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. So when we renovated this building, one of the ideas behind it was to make it more usable for the public. For those who, just out of curiosity, for those that are on the council now, how many of you ever went in the basement of the old building before it was renovated? Most of you. Matt never. That surprises me, Matt. I would have guessed that maybe in a former life you would have found a way to get into the building.
Then that would explain why I didn't raise my hand.
Statute of limitations. I think you're probably fine. Some of us are counting on that statute of limitations. Well, we had, for those that don't know, in the basement, we had right in the middle of this building, basically below us, what we called the black hole. It was a huge storage area that was basically unused for anything other than that. No windows, no light, other than, just enough to see what you were doing. It was a large unused space. So in addition, what I think the neatest innovation that we've done in this building with the remodel was adding the windows to this council room. So it's opened up this space and some other windows on the top floor. We have a lot of natural light in this building now. The other great innovation was being able to take that space downstairs in particular and configure it in a way that is much more usable for, it's been very usable for employee activities. But we also designed it in a way so that it could be rented out and used for the public. One of the challenges with renting the public space has been kind of figuring out the doors and the lock situation. We think we've kind of figured that out. But tonight what we want to do is get some direction from you on a variety of issues related to our proposed policy so we can begin renting the building to folks that might need it. So I may just walk you through the different areas that we need and a direction on. The first is on page 7. You see a table there that we are proposing making available for use 4 different rooms, potentially. One is the council chambers here. One is the basement conference room. That's what I lovingly call the fishbowl room, the one with the windows around it, or with the glass around it. And then the multi-purpose room, which can be used as a whole room or can be divided in half. Those would be the spaces available for rent. And we would recommend some fees. I guess the first policy question we want to ask is if you are comfortable with the idea of a differential fee for residents versus non-residents. And then secondarily, what your thoughts are about the amounts that we're recommending for rental. So first question first, resident versus non-resident rates.
I had a question about whether these are like a per hour fee or a block, 4 hours or a full day?
Apologize. Yeah, these would be for a block of time, essentially half-day blocks.
I personally was fine with, this is Bountiful City Hall and giving a preference to the residents of Bountiful. I could see, we do serve often as kind of a regional gathering point for surrounding communities, or our legislators serve multiple communities. So felt comfortable that there's an option, but just that there's a deference and a preference made sense to me.
I'd be comfortable with a larger interval between the two. I think that I agree with Councilmember Bradshaw that it's good to have it available. I think that maybe even a bigger margin between the 2 fees would be appropriate.
You'd like to see it raised for non-residents?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
So I did have a question about a group like South Davis Communities That Care. They kind of travel around to each of the South Davis city halls. I don't know if they've had a meeting here recently. But that's a group that it benefits our community. It's not necessarily from Bountiful. Would you charge them a rate to have, they usually do lunchtime meetings?
I have a little comment, and then I'd love to hear your thought. So I know that in the past, they have considered a police room using checking in with the police chief, and then if the building is available, they have considered that an in-kind donation, and then they've been able to report that as such for kind of like their own bookkeeping purposes. And so I know that that has been a way in the past that we've been able to sort of support them without actually having to, whether it's the police department or here, I think would be the same, but I'd love to hear your comment.
Yeah, that conversation we could have right now. I think there's a place for it that's coming up, and maybe we just want to move to that idea of who the use is for. Right now, what we have contemplated is primarily the use would be of folks who want to come in and use it for a recital potentially, or a reception, or a birthday party, or the occasional meeting. What we haven't really had much conversation about is this idea of nonprofit use and ongoing use. Our recommendation is that we not allow anybody to, say, hold clubs here or monopolize the space, having a regular meeting all the time that isn't our own. We have our own committees who come. I think the Community Service Council already meets here once a week and things like that. But we would prefer that we not do that, because that can take away from who else can use it. But maybe it makes sense to have a nonprofit category that is separate from the resident, non-resident.
I believe it is.
I think that there is, city partners. And we could establish who those people are, but there are city partners that we would allow them to use it. And same with what you're saying, not necessarily on an ongoing basis, but as needed, right? Like the Wasatch Front Regional Council had a meeting here, and we hosted it here in this room. And so there's someone that I would consider to be a city partner. And I'm sure there are other entities like that that are governmental in nature and that, we work with. And so,
If we have our practice, so we have been allowing use of the building for partner agencies, provided that those uses also benefit our employees or our residents. And we haven't necessarily been charging a fee for any of those because we haven't had a fee schedule. And I would expect that we would want to continue that. There'd have to be some discretion. It'd be hard to draw a bright line about where that is, but it'd be good to try. Because I think it is nice to be able to say, for example, if we have we have our elected representatives from the state or from Congress coming, and want to have an open house here for residents, non-political, just an open house. That's a great benefit to our community, and our residents are better served by it happening here than having to go to some other community. So we kind of want to, I think, facilitate that kind of use. So I think we might need some discretion a little bit on if it's, I think the term was used, a governmental partnership, or maybe educational, that there's some ability to waive fees.
and what uses, I know we're kind of jumping around, so I'm sorry, it's okay if you don't want to go to this question next, but what uses do you, would require someone to be here? I'm guessing that sometimes there would need to be someone here, and then other times it could just be that a responsible party is here and is in charge of cleaning up and turning off the lights and making sure the doors are locked at the end. Do we have thoughts on where, when a staff member is needed, or?
Yeah, so we do. The doors are programmable, and so what we would do is as part of the rental agreement, find out when the doors are to be opened and closed and program the doors accordingly, with a number, if they finish early, that they would contact dispatch so that we could lock the doors as needed. It would keep us from having to hand out keys like we used to have to hand out keys for the old building, which we kind of like, not passing keys around. Another option is we could, of course, hand out a fob and make that available to somebody, but we'd like to try with programming the doors as we know. And then The only time somebody might need to be available would be if there's an event that needs the audiovisual equipment, and we would like to not make that a regular feature of rental. Downstairs, it's easier, but we might charge an additional fee if they needed on-site help in setup of that. We
What
would
about
not
tables and
allow-
chairs downstairs?
I'm sorry?
What about access to our tables and chairs downstairs? Would that be an additional fee, or is that expectation that like you can use
Yeah.
the tables?
That'd just be included with the use, the rental of the room, the chairs, the tables and chairs.
I like the idea of for general everyday purposes, not having our audio-visual equipment as part of what is, people access. But I wonder, when it comes to things like birthday parties, I wonder, we don't want to necessarily be in competition with event centers. And I'm guessing that, if we're allowing food, I think occasionally there are times when we allow food, and it makes sense because there are meetings that are held where they're serving lunch or whatever it is. But I wonder if it's just kind of tricky with the gray area of knowing, like, it would be simpler if we had less food and also less messy if we, and so there are some events that are like birthday parties or whatever it is where I think people should opt for a event center first or something like that, where we're not necessarily, we're the cheapest and so they're going to come to here or whatever. But I don't know. I definitely think that it's good for us to have our space available to residents, but to me it seems like it should be primarily for things that are educational in nature or for, not just for like a party. So I don't know how we differentiate or whatever, but do you or do the council members have thoughts on that?
I have a little thought, Mayor. And this just comes from personal experience, but every year, my extended family on my mom's side, we gather at the Lehigh City Police Department facility, and it's this big room. It's kind of like this, and it's not their council chamber, but it's a lovely room, and we have a Christmas dinner there, and there are 50-plus people, and we put it up and we take it down, and it's how we gather. And frankly, I think we really respect the space, and I think they've been doing this now for a number of years, and they must find that people generally are respecting the space, and it's a really wonderful thing to be able to do, even for a non-government